perhaps the wording that our good congressman should have used was not underperformed, but underfunded. For the fact of the matter remains that Congress slashed the budget of the Department of Tourism by no less than 83% in terms of its promotions funding, from 1.2 billion to only 200 million in 2024, and slashed it by half yet again to only 100 million in 2025. Notwithstanding the measly funding received by the Department of Tourism in terms of promotions vis-a-vis the multi-million-dollar marketing funds of our ASEAN neighbors. We received 5.95 million international visitors. Tourism contributed 3.86 trillion to our economy and employed 6.75 million Filipinos and nearly 10 million more directly. That is a return of over 1,900,000% from the 200 million that we were allocated. And therefore, if we are to make commentaries on performance, we must examine the full plethora of facts.
Last na lang po from me. In his 2024 SONA, the President said last year that the great challenge, the tourism sector must surpass our data from the pre-pandemic period. But looking at the numbers that we have now from the Philippine Statistics Authority in terms of employment share, the tourism sector's contribution to the economy via the GDP, and the tourist arrivals, we're not yet there. We haven't surpassed them yet. Why?
Well, you get back what you give. Pre-pandemic, for one, since we're talking about funding, pre-pandemic funding for tourism promotions were easily over 1 billion pesos. You cannot expect a full recovery to 100% by investing only 100 to 200 million pesos and expect the same numbers. Second, our nation as well as our region faces headwinds that it has never faced before. Geopolitical tensions, war, the slowing down of the respective economies of our source markets, resulting in negative GDPs even in certain jurisdictions. And one of the things that has also continued to plague the country is our visa policy, which, as we have seen post-pandemic, have been completely liberalized across the ASEAN region, with the Philippines being one of the last remaining countries to still maintain a very stringent visa policy, and which has very much affected our arrivals, especially from jurisdictions such as China. We hope to be able to make that up with the policy shifts that the Marcos administration has introduced, with visa-free arrivals now allowed for Taiwan as well as India, one of the largest outbound markets in the world.
Okay, I'd like to call from Manila Standard to be followed.
Ma'am, Afel from Manila Standard. Ma'am, may we know your proposed budget for 2026 and how do you intend to defend this?
As far as the Department of Tourism, Office of the Secretary, and our related offices are concerned, we have proposed a budget of over 3.1 billion pesos, and this already covers as well all of the regions of the country under the jurisdiction of the DOT. That is separate from the budget that is proposed by our attached agencies. So as a composite, it amounts to a little over 3.5, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Well, we fully intend to report to Congress the accomplishments that have been made by the Department of Tourism and our attached agencies with the government funding that we have been provided, and to establish the fact that the investments made in the tourism industry has yielded very concrete results. While certain matrices of performance may not yet have reached pandemic numbers, others have. Case in point, the internal tourism spending for the country as a combination of international and domestic visitor receipts has reached pre-pandemic levels by 103%. Domestic tourism, which is the backbone of tourism for the Philippines, is now valued at over $66.2 billion, according to the World Travel and Tourism Council. And in terms of tourism employment, what we have to understand is that tourism is so vast an industry that our view in terms of the beneficiaries of tourism cannot be on those that are formally employed alone. We must also take into account those that are informally employed as well as indirectly benefit from tourism. For it's an entire value chain that feeds into one's experience of coming into or going around the country. And the National Labor Force Survey conducted by the Philippine Statistics Authority for 4 quarters last year pegged the indirect tourism employment for the country at upwards of 16.4 million to no less than 9 million, nearly 10 million. So there we can have a finer appreciation for the contributions of the tourism industry.
Ma'am, are you positive that what you proposed, what the department proposed, will be approved or given consideration by Congress?
I think if we limit our appreciation of the proposals to the facts and not take politics into account, then we are confident that our budget will be approved.
Hi, good morning, Ma'am. Irma Isip of Malaya Business Insight. Reported the tourism receipts as of May, and that's a little bit like less than half of the tourism receipts that we have actually generated last year. And secondly, you also admitted that there's a lot of headwinds facing the tourism industry in the Philippines. In terms of numbers of arrivals, how do you project all those numbers to come out by the end of the year, considering medyo behind tayo sa arrivals this year? That's one. And in that context, what's the update on the review of the tourism development plan? Do you have you recalibrated the targets, or are you confident of hitting the same? Thank you.
I think we have to be realistic about the prospects, considering all of the circumstances surrounding tourism competitiveness. For one, all of us experienced severe weather systems, one after the other. And we are told by Pag-asa that there are 12 more severe weather systems coming into the country. So these climate-related incidences also affect the prospects of the Philippines as a destination of choice. That being said, the work that the Department of Tourism is doing is to continue to champion Philippine tourism, notwithstanding the difficulties that it is facing. We are doing that by continuing our aggressive promotions across jurisdictions all over the world, our collaborations with the private sector in various industries in order to engage in joint promotions, as well as continue to liaise as far as ensuring the competitiveness of the country, especially as far as affordability is concerned. And we continue to coordinate with our fellow government agencies to push for continued improvement in airport, sea and land infrastructure, as well as connectivity coming into and going around the country. That being said, we understand that concerns have been raised in terms of decline in arrival. And one of the issues that are intimately related to that is the issue of peace and security. That is why we have and continue to coordinate with the DILG as well as the Philippine National Police. Our trainings for tourist police or TOP-COP have breached over 8,000, and they are placed in various tourism destinations across the country. The country's very first tourist assistance call center continues to be active and now has Mandarin and Korean-speaking agents that's ready to receive calls and requests for assistance, whatever the case may be. And our coordination with embassies and governments, especially that of Korea, continues. In fact, we're grateful to the Korean embassy for the ambassador's recent remarks acknowledging the efforts that have been made by the Philippine government to prioritize tourism safety, especially of Korean nationals. We have also already proposed to Malacanang the formation of a national tourism task force, which will consolidate the efforts of government agencies to have a very proactive approach towards ensuring tourist safety. On the other hand, while we face these headwinds and challenges, we are also re-examining the National Tourism Development Plan. This we are doing through various consultations with stakeholders all over the country, as well as listening to the needs of our stakeholders as far as the short and medium-term interventions that they require. And in terms of the targets, it's at present being recalibrated because the challenges come day to day as well. The effects of the war, for example, on the price of goods continues to impact the pricing competitiveness of the country.